Welcome, everyone. My name is Keith Freeman, and I'm the Director of Marketing for SSP Innovations, and we'd like to welcome you to the Illuminate webinar series. Today's presentation is on SSP Lifecycle implementation patterns. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Ian Martin. Ian Martin is the Director of Asset and Work Management Sales at SSP Innovations and has over 20 years of experience in the electric and gas industry. Ian's expertise lies in process and technology consulting to design and deliver asset and work management, mobile workforce management, and distribution design solutions using innovative product-focused offerings. Before we get started, just a little housekeeping. We always want to hear from you. So if you have any questions, look for the Q&A button on the webinar interface. And please enter your questions at any time, and we'll answer them at the end of Ian's presentation. Finally, a recorded version of this webinar will be made available in a follow-up email. With that, I'll turn it over to Ian. Ian, all yours.
All right. Thank you, Keith. And thank you all for taking the time to attend our latest. I think I've got a problem with the screen share. Let me fix that real quick, guys. You seeing that, Keith?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that, Ian. I see it perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not getting feedback on that, so just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
So thanks for that, and thanks for taking the time to attend our latest Illuminate webinar series presentation. Today I'll be introducing you to new implementation patterns that are available for SSP Lifecycle, and sharing some other updates about the Lifecycle product. Before we begin, I want to share a bit of background on SSP and our Lifecycle product. So SSP is a strategic partner with Esri. We're an Esri Platinum partner, one of about 15 in the world, out of a partner landscape of about 2,000 companies. We work closely with Esri utility and natural resources product teams and deliver solutions into the utility and pipeline business areas, working closely with Esri account reps, partner managers, and product development teams. SSP was one of the first utility-focused ArcGIS Online specialty partners, and we've got more web GIS customer implementations than any other company in the utility market. We're a 3-time Esri Partner Award winner, and most recently this year in 2018, and those awards have come 3 out of the past 4 years for us. So it's good to be recognized as a leader in the utility and pipeline market. And finally, SSP is a lead utility network evangelist and practitioner. So we've been working very closely with Esri on this transformative utility network solution, and are beginning to do a lot of implementations around the utility network. SSP Lifecycle is a utility-focused work and asset management platform. It provides comprehensive work management and enterprise asset management capability to utilities, and it's composed of 2 modules, Lifecycle Work and Lifecycle Assets. When you launch Lifecycle, you can enter into either a work dashboard or an asset dashboard, and each module can be implemented separately or together to provide an enterprise system of record for asset and work management. Lifecycle Assets provides asset lifecycle tracking, so the lifecycle of an asset from cradle to grave. It provides an asset registry, and it supports fixed and rotating assets within the utility. Provides for hierarchical modeling, work request tracking for those assets, and is GIS enabled, and supports inspections and tests on both spatial and non-spatial assets. And it's got a powerful integration framework that allows us to interface with GIS, ERP, materials, financials, other systems like that. Lifecycle Work allows you to manage work request lifecycle. So there's the ability to track and manage projects and jobs, build process checklists for supporting information that you need, do compatible unit estimating, including material reservation when it's time to do construction, and as-built reconciliation when construction's complete and you want to update your operational models. It serves as a central collaboration hub and business unifier, so you can get different folks in the organization talking to each other, and again, relies on that same powerful integration framework to communicate with other systems. The asset and work lifecycle is best exemplified by this diagram. We've borrowed this graphic from one of our customers, and we refer to it internally as the asset infinity loop. And basically what it's indicating is that there's a work and asset management continuum anytime you're putting an asset into service. So you're going to initiate a work request, you're going to build a construction project, you're going to update your asset records, and then you're going to start going into a maintenance life cycle for that. And along the way, you're going to accumulate information that's going to help you make better decisions and utilize that for business intelligence moving forward. Many of you on the phone have a vision for what work and asset management means for your organization, and it might align with that asset infinity loop, or maybe it means managing all types of work or managing all types of assets. And some of you have implemented a work and asset management system. Some of you are still using processes that have evolved over time, maybe from paper into a standalone system. And some of you are maybe still considering what your choices are around what it is that you want to do. But one thing that we're always curious about is, has your vision aligned with your reality? So you might want to do all of this. You might want to manage all types of work. You might want to manage all types of assets. But what does it really mean at the end of the day? Well, the reality is that your vision isn't always realized. So in a lot of cases, you're not aligned. And this is because of cost or complexity or gaps in functionality in the system that you've got that are causing you not to realize your vision. And the same can be said for when you're talking about your system interfaces. So your vision for that work and asset management system is that you want to have it integrated with other business systems. And this little hub and spoke model here illustrates, some examples of how you can interface work and asset management with other enterprise business systems. And if we could all achieve that, that'd be a great day. But again, what's the reality? And again, because of antiquated technology or closed systems or cost or complexity or lack of data, you end up sharing just the information that you can with the most important systems that you're going to have in your organization. So in a lot of cases, that means that your work and asset management system is going to be interfaced with your CIS, your GIS, and your plant accounting system, or your financial accounting system, be it as it may. So we've finished up our tour of Lifecycle and some of the challenges that are facing us as we implement work and asset management systems, and that's going to bring us to our first polling question. So I'll ask Keith to put that up on the screen real quick. Give everybody a few seconds to answer that. And then we can move on.
Let me end the polling here.
Great. So thanks everybody that participated in that. Looks like we got a lot of folks that are using GIS for asset management. We've got that sprinkled in with a few other incumbent systems. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about how Lifecycle can help you realize the value of your asset management system or your asset management program. And we're going to talk about that with a discussion of new implementation patterns for SSP Lifecycle. So first of all, why Lifecycle? How can Lifecycle help, and why is it suited for these problems that we've discussed? So first of all, Lifecycle is accessible and intuitive, and you can build simple, smart, streamlined solutions that end users are really going to appreciate. And if they're working on a simple paper-based process and they're afraid of what a digital transformation means, that's going to be helpful. It's going to be, it's going to be something that they can embrace. Secondly, it's an excellent business unifier. So you can replace legacy systems like your Excel or Access Excel spreadsheets or Access databases that you have for your quote-unquote enterprise asset management system. You can replace homegrown work management systems. You can integrate with incumbent enterprise systems, the big Goliath work and asset management systems from the big enterprise technology platforms, or maybe from cooperative focus solutions that are out there. So you've got that capability to enable that. And then finally, it enables the digital transformation so that you can build 100% digital workflows that integrate in with your Esri platform, so that you've got the ability to get maps and asset and work management data out into the field. And you can accomplish all of this via one of our new implementation patterns. So the first of these is the system of engagement pattern. A system of engagement is how an end user interacts with an enterprise system. So for example, Outlook is a system of engagement for email inside of an enterprise. And Lifecycle is an intuitive system of engagement or front end for incumbent work management, asset management, or ERP systems that you may have. Secondly is through integration with the Esri platform. So Lifecycle seamlessly integrates with Esri GIS technology. We embed Esri maps in Lifecycle for end user engagement. We update the Esri GIS system of record with asset updates. And we rely on Esri technology to make assignments available to field workers. Another is Lifecycle as a service. So Lifecycle was historically only available as an on-premise solution, and now we've made it so that you can deploy it in the cloud or access a hosted software as a service solution offering. And finally, Lifecycle comes embedded in ArcGIS Pro via SSP Productivity, and that's known as Work for Productivity. So let's have a look at each of these patterns in a little bit more detail. If you have a legacy work and asset management system, either incumbent technology or a homegrown system, you're already accessing that system directly through a front end. So you're doing that, and maybe it's through a web front end, maybe it's a client-server sort of interface. With a system of engagement pattern, we simply replace or supplement your front end with Lifecycle. So instead of going directly back to that system, you have the option to go directly back to Lifecycle. In the process of doing that, we make asset and work management more accessible. And because Lifecycle is intuitive, we see end user adoption increase. And this means that you get more out of your legacy work and asset management system, and you realize a greater return on your investment in that system. So another way is through the SSP Lifecycle and the Esri platform. And that system of engagement pattern can be further extended via integration with the Esri platform. So your Esri GIS system of record supports maintenance of critical infrastructure records and utility network assets. And historically, you were able to access that directly in a client server environment. And if you've got a separate asset management system, it's often not aligned with what you've got in your GIS, or you're going to have trouble keeping that data current. Over the years, Esri has done a great job of increasing access to GIS information with Portal and AGOL and other desktop web and device-oriented systems of engagement. And adding Lifecycle to the picture as another one of those systems of engagement rounds out that system and extends a bunch of different capabilities into the Esri platform. So now, Lifecycle can help make asset and work management information available to enterprise users, and that information can be visualized using Portal web maps and the operations dashboard. And using Esri mobile tools and partner tools like SSP MIMS, you can maintain your GIS and asset records and use those to drive preventative maintenance plans. In fact, you can enable that entire asset infinity loop using this sort of pattern. So if we revisit this asset infinity loop, we can look at the Esri platform as foundational technology that's going to underlie what we're talking about here. And SSP Lifecycle allows users to engage, asset and work managers to engage with the system. And through that, you can visualize operational insights into your utility business processes with the operations dashboard. So that's that icon up at the top that you're getting from your Esri platform. So I'm just going to start, and you can see how adding additional SSP technology to the mix. You can see how MIMS is used for design and field work, and productivity for as-built reconciliation and process workflow, and MIMS to track inspection, compliance, and AMI Ops to monitor asset health. And then finally, with all the data that are created and maintained, you can use insights for ArcGIS to extract business intelligence from all of this data. Our next pattern is Lifecycle as a service. So essentially what that means is just deploying Lifecycle to the cloud. So again, I mentioned before that historically you've only ever been able to deploy Lifecycle on premise, but we're making that available to you in cloud offerings. And there are two approaches to this pattern. So the first is cloud managed services. And with this pattern, you have the option to contract with a cloud service provider to host your Lifecycle infrastructure. So you're going to have them host the hardware for you, essentially. And then you would contract with SSP to manage the Lifecycle solution that's implemented on top of that hosted infrastructure platform. And then finally, SSP provides support for you when you need it. So that Lifecycle implementation is in the cloud. It's always available, potentially more secure than what you're going to have with an on-premise solution. You've got SSP that's going to manage that implementation for you, and then we're going to provide you support whenever you need it. The second option is to go with a hosted solution, a more traditional SaaS model. And this is analogous to what you get if you're an AGOL user and you're using that Esri offering. And with this pattern, you'd contract with SSP to access a hosted Lifecycle solution, and then you'd upload your assets and manage your workflows inside of that hosted Lifecycle solution. And then SSP would provide support and potentially optional managed services around that if you need help with your assets and managing your workflows and supporting that system. And then the final pattern that we'll talk about today is work for productivity. So work for productivity is SSP Lifecycle and SSP Productivity embedded inside of ArcGIS Pro. It provides access to predefined Lifecycle process workflows and allows GIS technicians and specialists and analysts to manage existing work and initiate new work requests. Work for productivity is exposed as a tool in SSP productivity. And clicking that tool presents a panel, and that provides access to lifecycle capabilities. This is essentially GIS front end for lifecycle. We're getting pretty meta here, closing the loop. But you've got the ability then to get access to your lifecycle work requests and your lifecycle process flows inside of ArcGIS Pro now. And with Work for Productivity, you can manage your GIS process workflow. You can get access to the metadata around that job that you're working on. You can manage that in the context of your ArcGIS Pro projects. You've got the ability to manage the enterprise versions too. So we, with Work for Productivity, when you open up a job, we're handling all of the branch versioning and you know, making those versions and tying those to the work that you're doing inside of ArcGIS Pro. Okay, so with that, we've come to the second polling question, and I'll turn that over to Keith. All right. Excellent. Okay, so sounds like there's a lot of folks out there that have a need for asset inspections or automating maintenance processes. So that's excellent. The next portion of the presentation, we're going to talk about some companies that have benefited from Lifecycle. So we're going to give you some updates on some projects that we've implemented over the past year or so. So the first highlight is PSNC, where we've done a Lifecycle Work implementation. This went live in July of 2017. It's fully integrated with Salesforce. So this is an area where there's a gas franchise that's competitive. And so we wanted to get, or the customer wanted to get Salesforce integrated into their work processes so that when they're going out and doing prospecting, they can, you know, drive a process around getting new customers and hooking them up to the system. So that's going to be an input into a capital construction process once you've identified a customer, for example. In the process of doing this implementation, they replaced 2 legacy work management systems and all of their estimating spreadsheets. So again, we're going back to that, you know, the business unification, being able to replace legacy systems, being able to eliminate one-off systems and put in place an enterprise solution. And currently, we're probably well in excess of 1,700 work requests with where they're at right now. The next one is Denton Municipal Electric. So they went live with Lifecycle Assets in November of last year. They're managing 7 different asset types right now. And we're also supporting asset ordering for them. So if they need to get an asset, they can link back into their purchasing system and enter that order. And what's happened over time is that there are other departments inside of the organization that are wanting to take advantage of the system and get access to the asset details there. So we're seeing the expanded use into other departments, basically giving other people that access to that system of engagement so that they can see asset details that they couldn't before because they were siloed. They were held inside of Excel spreadsheets or Access databases. Another one is SCE&G Gas. This is, again, another Lifecycle Work implementation. What you're looking at here is a work request dashboard. This one went live in October of 2017. Currently has about 2,500 work requests managed inside of there as of our last update. They got about 20 different job types that they're managing. So this is service requests, work orders, distribution integrity management, that sort of thing. And this is a fully SOX compliant application that's integrated with their power plant accounting system. And again, fully integrated with Salesforce. We've got a gas prospecting group that's going out there and signing up new customers. And then finally, SCE&G Electric, where they're doing a work implementation. This one has a go live plan for January of 2019. This one is handling all their capital construction and doing that, doing their estimating all in a new version of the Lifecycle estimate worksheet. So this one's going to allow you to do multiple work locations at the same time and allow you to do your design and your as-built on the same form, and then fill that sheet out for you. Then we've got Burbank Water and Power, where we're doing Lifecycle Work implementation. This go live's planned for October 2018. This is an example of a system of engagement implementation. So we talked about that system of engagement pattern where you can have a legacy work and asset management system, and you can either replace or supplement the front end with Lifecycle. And in this case, we've supplemented the Oracle WAM front end with Lifecycle and made that system a little bit more accessible to engineering and utility operations users. This is the first Lifecycle 2.x implementation that's fully integrated with Schneider Electric's Designer graphic work design solution as well. So we've got that that graphic work design pattern and that integration with Schneider Electric's Designer accomplished, and an example of it implemented with Burbank Water and Power. And finally, not finally, they have a crew time entry capability, so they can do all their timesheet entry inside of Lifecycle. And finally, they're taking advantage of some enhancements to the 2.1 platform that allow them to do their process checklists and clear a lot of those checklist items that are assigned to individual users all at once. So this is an example of a process or a product enhancement that was recently announced. And then finally, we've got an update on Lansing, Board of Water and Light, where we're doing an assets implementation for them. And this has a planned go live October of 2018. They've got about 20,000 electric plant assets that they've got under maintenance. This is supporting fixed and rotating assets inside of their system. And they've got a plan to do a Lifecycle Work implementation coming up as soon as FY 2019. Okay, so this is our opportunity to do our third polling question. And this one really has questions around, what are your plans? What are your needs around asset maintenance inspections or joint use systems? And we'll explain why we're talking about that kind of stuff in just a sec. All right. Okay, great. Well, thanks again for the feedback. There's a lot of folks that have a lot of needs out there. And hopefully this next section of the presentation will give you some food for thought. So this is where we're going to talk about a look ahead. at what we're doing with the Lifecycle platform, and what it means to SSP customers, but also folks that are looking for an integrated solution offering that's really utility focused. So first off, just an update on the SSP Software Stack. So with recent acquisitions of Wind Lake Solutions and TC Technology, the technology and the platforms that are available for use to SSP customers and the utility industry as a whole have expanded. So with the acquisition of Wind Lake Solutions came SPANs, which is a way to help manage and monetize your pole attachments and joint trench usage. And it manages the whole permitting and notifications around joint use. And then you've got MIMS, which came through the acquisition of TC Technology. And really MIMS underpins a lot of what SSP is doing in terms of its mobile solution offerings. So you're going to see MIMS integrated with Lifecycle. You're going to see MIMS integrated with SPANs. You're going to start to see a lot of discussions around inspections and design, things like that. And today we've got all of our utility network solutions, our work and asset management solutions, our AMI solutions. Those are all integrated in some way with SSP Lifecycle. And I'll just talk a little bit about how we accomplish that next. So Lifecycle has a robust API. We've got an example of what that documentation looks like on the Lifecycle Work side, and we've got corresponding capability on the asset side. And really, what this allows us to do is, support design, get work requests out into the field. Support the ability to create estimates and to do scenario analysis and to assign tasks and to perform inspections and basically to automate a lot of types of field work moving forward. And we've used this API to integrate with a variety of SSP technology, and it's the same interface, the same API that's utilized to interface with CityWorks to support compatible unit estimating for the CityWorks asset management platform. It's the same API that's used to support integration with Salesforce and PowerPlan and Oracle WAM, the systems that we've been talking about interfacing with during this presentation. And so one of the examples of how we're utilizing that technology and getting some synergies out of the products that we've got is with Lifecycle and AMI Ops. And this is really around proactive asset maintenance that's driven off of monitoring meter events that are maintained inside of a meter data management system. So utilizing AMI Ops, you can gather up that information, you can visualize it, you can associate that to assets that you've got maintained inside of your Lifecycle system, and then utilizing MIMS, you can send folks out to the field to inspect and to do repairs on those assets that have been identified for maintenance. The next opportunity that we're going to have is around SPANs and Lifecycle. So basically expanding the capabilities of Lifecycle to pole operators, your utilities, your incumbent exchange carriers on the telecom side, allowing them to integrate work and asset management activities with what they're doing with SPANs around permitting and notification, automating those processes, and giving them the ability to manage those poles as assets and also the attachments on the poles as assets. And then finally, Lifecycle and MIMS, where there's just the case for expanding those capabilities around system inspections and condition assessments, and integrating all that into your work and asset management activities just makes a whole lot of sense to us. And for that reason, that's going to be one of our next Illuminate webinar series presentations. So we're going to have some updates coming soon on a new or an updated Lifecycle and MIMS webinar. So with that, Keith, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ian. Just a reminder, please be sure to use the Q&A button to enter your questions. Looks like we have a few in already. Let me get to those. You talked about the system of engagement with Burbank using Oracle WAM. Can you elaborate more on that project?
Yeah, so the project there was Burbank had implemented Oracle WAM, and it was successful for their for accounting and service orders and things like that. But they were having trouble with it on the design capital construction side of the business, and by putting Lifecycle in place, there was an opportunity to increase the engagement and increase the adoption of the technology, and that helped Burbank increase their adoption rates, and then that meant more return on investment. So they were able to justify the system and get a lot of return out of it based on putting Lifecycle in there to help automate their capital construction process and integrate with their Schneider Electric design solution.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian. And looks like another one on system of engagement. If we have an existing asset management system, how would we use Lifecycle? What is the benefit?
So, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of cases where you might have an existing asset management system, and you need to take advantage of what Lifecycle has to offer. You know, one example is, you know, we recently did a webinar with CityWorks, and CityWorks is an excellent example of a GIS-enabled or GIS-centric asset management system, and you can utilize Lifecycle to complement and extend what you're doing with CityWorks and give yourself the ability to do compatible unit estimating and material reservation and just basically help automate that capital construction process and integrate in with CityWorks as that system of record. So that's an example. And then another way is just if you're looking at a system that is too complex for your, you know, just traditional utility business processes, and it creates a burden on end users, you can put in place a system that's more intuitive, that's going to help them take advantage of the value of that system by exposing it in a way that's non-threatening and giving them the ability to automate processes, you know, achieve digital transformation inside of the utility, but not but do that in a way that's going to recognize and respect the investments that have already been made in that incumbent technology.
All right, thank you, Ian. Just a reminder, the Q&A button is how you can enter your questions in. Right now, waiting to see if we get any more. Well, it looks like at this point we have maybe covered all our questions. Just want to give a reminder.
Right.
Just want to remind you that a recorded version of this webinar will be made available in a follow-up email. And our next stop is GeoConnects. If you're in attendance, please stop by and say hi. Thank you to our presenter, Ian Martin, and thank you to those who joined us today. We'll see you at GeoConnects or at a future webinar or at Illuminate 2019, which is coming up early next May. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.